talk about AI. We've talked about AI multiple times, and it's taking the marketing world by storm. In recent episodes, we've talked about some of the amazing tools on the market, but also about some of the implications that AI could create in the creative space. Talked about that just a couple weeks ago. A company by the name of Bynder has released a study that highlights consumer interactions with AI versus human-generated content. Half of the surveyed consumers can discern AI-generated copy, with millennials leading the way in detection, possibly due to their higher AI usage. Surprisingly, 56% of participants preferred AI-generated articles over human-written articles, yet over half have expressed reduced engagement with suspected AI content in the past. Many perceive brands using AI for content as impersonal or lazy, emphasizing the importance of maintaining a human touch in marketing despite AI's efficiency benefits. There's a lot to digest in this article, and I know as somebody that likes data, this is like your kind of article.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've touched on a lot of these things. We've touched on AI tools in the past. We've touched on how they can make your life easier when it comes to creating content. Just recently, we talked about the Toys R Us commercial that was AI generated and kind of the mixed reaction that it was getting. And now a study like this comes out where I don't know what to think of it. Is it that AI content is getting really good to the point that almost half of the people can't figure out if it's AI, or that it isn't very good and half the people are like, no, I can totally tell this is AI? And, people not necessarily trusting companies using AI. What's your take on this? As somebody that loves data, loves statistics, loves AI, this has you all over this.
Yeah, this is a really interesting one to me for a number of reasons. The first kind of part that is, as you mentioned, the numbers are all kind of around that 50% mark. I think they said that in the US, 55% of people could tell the difference between an AI written piece and a human written piece. And in the UK, the same size sample, it was somewhere about 45%. And when you only have two options and you just take a guess, you can expect a 50%, ratio of one versus the other kind of
coin
thing.
flip.
Yeah, so exactly. So it's basically a coin flip. And these numbers are very much within that ballpark. So I when I read it, I was kind of chuckling to myself, wondering, can these people know the difference? They say 54% of people can tell the difference. It's like, can they, or are they really just guessing? Is everyone just guessing here? So that was kind of funny to me. And interesting as well, because it'll be interesting to see if that number changes, if more people, or if it goes down. And I don't see how it can go down by much, because eventually people are just going to be guessing, and you're going to get kind of the same numbers. So there's that. I thought it was interesting that the age group of 25 to 34 were the people who were most likely to recognize the difference, and also that in that group, more than half did prefer the human-generated content, which I thought was interesting. But again, we are still in that ballpark of 50 to 55%. So it's kind of like, again, it could all just be, I prefer that one, I prefer this one, and whatever else. But the most interesting part was about 20% of people said that they feel like a brand would be, impersonal, untrustworthy, and lazy if they used AI to generate social copy. And the fact that people feel that way, although from these numbers, it appears that we can't tell the difference. People are only aware half the time, if they are aware at all. I think it says more about human nature than about the standard of AI, and the fact that nobody wants to believe they can be tricked. It's the whole similar to, we've had this difficulty with like scams and things like that for a number of years, whereby you don't want to think, I would feel like a foolish person if I were tricked by a scam, but it's kind of like they're designed in a way to overcome that kind of thing, so that you do feel like, this has to be real because, and I think, I just find that interesting, and I don't know that people will get any better at dictating or deciding whether or not something is AI generated, and the AI stuff isn't going to get worse. From here it's only going to get better. So I think if they conducted this testing again in about a year or two, I feel like the numbers would probably be exactly the same. I don't think people are going to get any better or any worse at dictating, differentiating the AI. Sorry.
and you touched on it just now, but I remember a few weeks ago you mentioned this too. This is the worst that AI is going to be today, right now.
Yeah.
It's not going to get worse in the next months and years. It's only going to get better.
Yeah.
So if we're sitting at this range now, yeah, if you did this study in a year from now, will it still be around 50-50? Perhaps. Could it sway one way or the other? Will people become somewhat kind of reluctantly on board? Like, I guess I really don't care who created this. It's entertaining or informative, and I don't really care. Or will some people be like, well, no, I like that human element. That's kind of where I am. The human element of a story, telling a story, etc. But again, it's not going to get worse. It's only going to get better.
I think you have to reposition, to find out whether people are more likely to pick one over the other. I think you kind of have to reposition the question whereby you can't tell them that one's AI written and one's human written. You would just sort of say, here are two pieces. Which do you prefer? And then if one of those starts to get towards the 80% part, then you're like, okay, well, this is the one that people like. And if that's the AI generated one, then you can start to learn that people are being more fooled by it, or whether they're fooled by it or not, that the AI is writing something that's resonating with that reader in a way that the human generated one isn't. Very, very interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, you know what? I'm guessing there are only going to be more of these types of studies to come out in months and years from now. I'm sure at some point we'll start seeing these about images. Can you tell whether or not this image is real? This video, all this kind of stuff coming. So, this will be. I'm sure something we'll be chatting about in the days, weeks, and months ahead.
Mm-hmm.